And so it looks like America's back in business. Very interesting. But this is just the beginning of the next phase. Remember, we are moving into a complete, utter destruction of what is normal, or what is considered normal in the US of A. And for everyone around the world, huge migrations. Huge migrations were considered the precipice for mass movements or mass revolutions. I'm going to do something solely on this area because the power control force it's a socially induced revolutions that are happening all around the world. But it's very interesting to watch the demise of this physical world. Again, everything was pre-planned well before any of us were ever born. And so we're actually just living through a script. We're living through a narrative that is playing out. And it's quite interesting. It's quite profound to see the levels of complexity and the levels of those, or the unawareness, or the level of consciousness that most people are at. I mean, with all the information that's available in mainstream and through the internet, we are just bombarded with information that so many people can still be duped into believing a certain narrative that's playing out on the physical world stage. So I want to direct you to a blog post that I posted, just connecting some more dots here. You can read it at your leisure. It's called The Nude Statesman equals Revolutionizing Consciousness, Obama's Brain Game, Aleister Crowley equals a Great B, 666, and whose dream are you dreaming? And so I want to touch on sovereignty, and these other areas that I've touched on. I'm not going to read the whole blog post. You can read it, but I'm going to just touch on certain areas. But for focus here, let's focus on what it is to have a sovereign mind. Now, I continuously tell you that, the mind, the thought process, and thought are not yours. They are manufactured by the power control force, or the universal architects, that is, who developed this whole universe, our solar system, and the earth. And it's a computer generated game that we are immersed in. And I know that may be hard for some to believe, but we must remember the universal architects who designed the universe, who call themselves God, have captured you as awareness and have you living in a mind-generated dream. A mind-generated dream world, which is constructed from the individual and collective beliefs that have been socially induced by those who control this third dimensional system, that is the power control force. Now, once you come to know self as unique awareness, you come to learn about how our reality is created, and more importantly, how it's being manipulated. Again, I share a perspective here. So let's give an example. We don't actually see with our eyes, we see with our minds. At one level, this is through the visual cortex in the brain. When information enters the eyes, it is in a very different form from what we think we are seeing. It is upside down and two-dimensional to start. It is only when this hits the visual cortex that the world we think is outside of us exists in that form. In short, the world is not outside of us, it is within us. Now, there is massive research that reveals how we edit information and receive information through the eyes before it actually reaches the visual cortex. Up to 50% of the details that enters the eye is changed before it reaches the visual cortex and manifests as the world we think we are seeing. And so, what is crucial to understand is that this editing process that takes place on the basis of our beliefs and what is real, Because of this, our sense of reality becomes our experience reality. We are constantly constructing our personal universe to reflect what we believe to be real. Now, the whole foundation of the global conspiracy is the manipulation of our senses of reality by the indoctrination of our beliefs. Once we accept the externally implanted beliefs to be real, we then edit information to support those beliefs. We are people under massive hypnosis. And so it's like a hypnotic stage show. You know, all these false beliefs are being implanted second by second through the media, the educational systems, institutional systems, and the main hypnotic source is also the television. In this way, we are tricked into seeing the world as the manipulators want us to see it. And we need to understand this and take back control of our own minds. Now, even though our minds are not ours, and the thought process is not ours, and our thoughts are not ours, we still must reclaim the mind back, and so that we have a sovereign mind. That's the only way that we are going to be able to withstand the onslaught of the narrative that's going to be playing out on the physical world stage. And we can do that when we come to know self as unique awareness. We can reclaim our mind and use our mind as a tool, as a weapon, against those who presume to run this world and who choose to manipulate us, keep us under massive hypnosis. It's important that we take back our mind, because what is ensuing on this earth plane is insane. It's insanity. And those that presume to run this world are insane. They're clinically insane. They should be all institutionalized. They suffer severe mental illness. And if you don't think that that is passing on to you, well, think again. So this whole area of consciousness is just a smokescreen. Consciousness, by some, is an electrochemical phenomena that happens in the brain. Consciousness is a concept. Can't be quantified. No one seems to be able to know where it is, where it resides, or what it really is. A lot of people have different perceptions of what consciousness is. But it's just a mass, it's just a mirror of the awareness that you are. I mean, the power control force wouldn't come out and tell you exactly who and what you are, because it's right inside you. That's the biggest secret. And they don't want you to know who and what you are, so they won't directly call it what it is. They're going to call it something else, and so they call it consciousness. Knowingly that most people are under massive hypnosis, that they keep most people under massive hypnosis. So really consciousness is another form of awareness, but it's not awareness in the totality of who and what you are. It's a smokescreen. It's what we use, the concept that we use in this dimension to call something we know nothing about, because most people do not know who and what they are. So we can use things like consciousness to explain nothing, really. I hope you get where I'm going here. So consciousness is a concept. Awareness, unique awareness, is who and what you are. It's immortal. Consciousness is not. Consciousness comes and goes. We are all at different states of consciousness in this dimension, in this physical world. Most people are unconscious because they're under massive hypnosis. I hope you get where I'm going here. So anyway, I want to talk to you about Russell Brand, and I want to talk to you about, who's a comedian from UK. And we're going to talk about Aleister Crowley, who is, his philosophies of Thelema are really the principles upon which the power control force draw from his philosophies in order to develop a lot of the narratives that we're seeing that are playing out on the physical world stage through language and symbols and occult rituals and celestial occultations and sex magic. So let's look at some of this stuff. Let's look at the guy who's behind all this. But Russell Brand, apparently, is this current news, is coming out, is going to edit one edition of a publication called The New Statesman. And he's going to change the name to The Nude Statesman. Now, Russell Brand, if you don't know who he is, he's a UK comedian, quite controversial, talks a lot about occult and alternative stuff, quantum physics, and he really kind of washes down the whole quantum physics thing and consciousness, and it's just totally watered down in terms of our evolution. He's quite funny, but he knows quite a bit, but he's he's really taken this this science, this new science of quantum physics to a whole nother level and just made a joke out of it, which is quite interesting. But anyway, he's going to be editing this publication, just one edition. I guess they want to try him out before they give him the role as editor for their publication. Who knows? Anyway, he's calling it this new edition, The New Statesman, and he is going to cover a theme called Revolutionizing Consciousness. Again, consciousness is a concept which has been socially induced by the power control force. It's like the socially induced awakening that's proliferating the physical world stage thanks to all the information that's proliferating. Everyone seems to think that they're waking up. It's socially induced. It's artificial sense of awakening, and it's deliberate. It's on purpose, so that you have the perception that you are awakening and that you are fulfilling you're fulfilling your role here to evolve to higher and higher states of consciousness, and that the more information that you have, the more you know, or the more overwhelmed you become. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you come to know the truth of who you are. You just awaken to the fact that you living in a system that's insane. That's what we're waking up to. Most people are. And that's overwhelming for most. It's debilitating. It's overwhelming. It's demoralizing. And, and it puts people in a place of, what the heck do I do with all this information, with all this gnosis, with all this knowledge? I spin my wheels trying to figure things out. And that's what they want you to do. It keeps you distracted. So anyway, I thought that was a little bit interesting. Anyway, it turns out that Russell Brand is going to look to people like Noel Gallagher and Alec Baldwin, of all people, and Naomi Klein for ideas on revolutionizing consciousness. That should be interesting. And but I found it interesting also that Shepard Fairey, who created the Hope poster for Obama, also created the magazine cover for the New Statesman, or the Nude Statesman, the new cover for that Russell Brand will be putting out. And interesting enough, the image on the poster, you can check it out on my blog post. The image you'll notice includes sun worship, as its rays envelop the brain, and Kundalini, rising energy through the light bulb up to the brain. So on the cover, we have a mind, which is in a ring, which brings the O to mind, as in O-Care, Obamacare. Because remember, the guy who developed this also developed this cover, developed the Hope cover for Obama. So just connecting some dots here. And also, keep in mind that back in April, Obama did announce a human brain mapping program where he was going to initiate $100 million investment in support and research of the brain functioning. He says He is noted as saying, as humans we identify galaxies light years away. We can study particles smaller than an atom, but we still haven't unlocked the mystery of 3 pounds of matter that sits between our ears. Oh, you believe me, they have unlocked that mystery long time ago, but they didn't tell us that. But now they're going to put some money towards it. So we need to keep abreast of what's going on here. But, it reminds me of David Icke, from The Biggest Secret. He was noted as saying the goals of the work, he was noted as saying the main reason for the campaign of a micropopulation is to suppress the awakening and disconnect us from the pulse that is setting us free. Kind of looks like what's in that poster for Russell Brand's new Statesman publication that he's putting out. Consciousness, the brain inside a light bulb, Kundalini rising. Yeah. So basically, a CIA scientist told David Icke that microchipping the population would give the power control force control over a person's thoughts, emotions, and physical health. But remember, I tell you, they require complete and utter control, really, of unique awareness. You as awareness. They want complete and utter control of you as awareness. Remember, we are living through a script, a narrative that was developed way before any of us were born. So let's look at Aleister Crowley. Aleister Crowley, the man who reveled in being called the Great Beast, 666. Well, it sounds like a tie-in to the Book of Revelation. So maybe the Great Beast that they talk about in the Book of Revelations is really Aleister Crowley and his Thelema philosophy. And the narrative, that's a narrative. The Book of Revelations is playing out on the physical world stage. Anyway, Aleister Crowley was dubbed by the press as the wickedest man in history. And he was more than an occultist. Aleister Crowley is the heart of one of the most influential movements in the 20th and 21st centuries. He was a very significant member of an organization based in Germany called the Ordo Templi Orientis, OTO, which continues to advance the principles of Thelema, his law of Thelema, or his philosophy of Thelema to this day. He was also a part of the Golden Dawn, which was later turned into the orders of the AA, the Astron Argon or Astrum Argentinum, or Silver Star. And he was also very well connected with Freemasonry. The Freemasonry and the law of Thelema is very significant with the narratives that are playing out on the physical world stage. One of the things I want to talk to you about too here is I put a post here with Jay-Z wearing a shirt with Crowley's most famous saying, "Do what thou wilt." Freedom is a release from unreality. Freedom is not simply being allowed to do what you like. It is intensity of will. And it appears under circumstances that link man and arouse the will to more life. Life on this physical plane is the only value. It is ideas that are valueless. And I just wanted to connect that with will, that little phrase there that I put there. Freedom posits free will that is self-evident, but will can only operate when there is first motive. No motive, no willing. But motive is a matter of belief. You would not want to do anything unless you believed it possible and meaningful, and belief must be belief in the existence of something, that is to say, it concerns what is real, so ultimately freedom depends on the real. But remember, I told you how our reality is shaped in the very beginning here on our collective and individual beliefs that are socially induced. So our will is really being manufactured. Our will to live is being manufactured through these thelemic philosophies. But I also have a picture here of Keisha, just connecting some more dots. Keisha, I did an article on her some time ago. Keisha Die Young, Ritual Magic and Blood Sacrifice. There's a link to that. But if you look at the picture, it reminds me of Crowley's picture above. I put Aleister, the famous Aleister Crowley picture with his arms next to his cheeks and that pyramid hat that he's wearing. But I really see how this Keisha photo is kind of mirroring his photo. You know, it's just showing how this philosophy is filtering through pop culture in ways that we are not even aware of, but it's happening all the time. One of the things I want to mention to you, you can read the rest of that in the article, but one of the things that I find quite interesting with Aleister Crowley is his whole idea of sex magic. Now the OTO, the organization that he was immersed in, did protest his practice of homosexual sex magic, and bringing that into the OTO is one of the highest, being one of the highest degrees of the order of Freemasonry, He believed that homosexual sex magic, he believed it to be the most powerful formula to evolve one to higher and higher states of consciousness. Now, there are some people in the alternative media movement, like Graham Hancock. Now, he had a TED video that was taken down where he's talking about ayahuasca and higher states of consciousness and using ayahuasca. They didn't really like that, so they took it off. But I saw that. I might actually see if I can post a link to that if it's still up in the description. You can look at it. But it's interesting, Graham Hancock, he's quite heavily known in the occult arena. But then all these people, David Icke, Graham Hancock, a lot of the alternative media people, occult people, have tied in with Freemasonry and this whole Thelema philosophy. So it's part of controlled opposition. Power control force operates on both sides. And so don't think that these people are not connected, but they are very much connected. And then there, some people are talking about shamanic journeying and hallucinogenic drugs and how one can raise one's level of consciousness. But in order to come to know self as pure awareness, it's an organic process. It's either going to happen to you or it's not. I mean, there are people who can support you on the path, but it's not for the faint of heart, and most people won't do it. So it's something that's going to be organically happening to you to evolve, to know self as pure awareness. Or, some people call it enlightenment, or those are just concepts. Those are just words. But to know self as unique awareness, I believe that, people can work towards becoming or knowing the truth of who they are. That is a possibility, especially at this particular time in human history. But I believe that for the most part, and there are people who can support you, but I believe for the most part, it's going to happen to those who are driven for it to happen, because it's too hard. It's too hard. It's hard work. It's not for the faint of heart. And then you wake up and then you have to live knowing what you know. And that's very jarring as well. How do you still continue to exist in this physical world when you know so much, and when you know who you are as unique awareness? It's been a bit of a challenge for me, but you have to have a strong mind, and it has to become. You have to have a strong mind, and you have to become sovereign. Sovereign. Your mind must become sovereign. So I want to just finish out with this one other piece about consciousness. Consciousness. Let's look at the where is this whole idea of the mind coming from? The whole concept of the mind comes from the solar system. The structure of the mind is based on our planets, the planets in our solar system. That's how we're manipulated on a evolutionary level. We could just look to astrology. And if we look at the signs, they are the signs, the 12 signs, or the 13 signs. They are our identity, aspects of our identity. And the houses are the fields of experiences. And so, with all the information out there today, with any good astrology software, you can look at the plan that's for the rest of your life. From an astrological standpoint, you go look at your destiny, the destiny of humanity, and what's to play out here on the physical world stage, just by looking at the astrology over the next, 20, 30, the 50 years, depending on how long you're going to be on this earth plane. And then we can see how the power control force simply mirrors the actual astrological plan or evolutionary plan that's been set out by the universal architects. Because, again, the mind, the structure of the mind is the planets. And so we are influenced by the planets. It's a software. Let's say, look at the astrology as a software. Astrology is a software. And in which we are embedded in which we're having this experience. So if the planets are the structure of the mind, and the signs are the 12 signs, or the 13 signs, are our identity, and the houses are our fields of experience, this is a software upon which our essence has been captured, is having this physical experience through the mind that we think that's ours, and the thought process that we think that's ours, and the thoughts that we think that's ours. So it's a software we're running. This is a software program that we're running on. So it's quite fascinating in that the power control force has simply mirrored this software program and have developed their own artificial software program based on these dark, hidden, occult philosophies and rituals that they are perpetrating on humanity, creating this insane world that we live in now. So it's quite fascinating. So let us stay tuned and read the rest of my article if you like. But one other thing that I want to mention to you before I close out here. And again, this is always a sharing. It's just a sharing of a perspective from one who's experiencing and expressing as a unique awareness through this mind-body construct. It truly is a glorious time to be alive. It truly is a glorious time to be here for those who can withstand the onslaught. But the key is to become detached. The key is to reclaim your mind back. Reclaim your sovereignty in your will, your free will to be here. That is your right. That is your divine right. One of the things that I truly struggle with at this particular juncture in my experience here as unique awareness is that because I do know that we are immersed in a software program and a hardware program, and that this reality is manufactured, and that we are, as a unique awareness, we are all-knowing, all-wise, and immortal beings. How does one continue to live one's life out in this existence, in this insanity, knowing what I know, and that I am actually as a mind-body construct. I am wired based on this software. I am playing out or acting out or playing out a role here based on this software. And so part of me just wants to rest as unique awareness in my state of paradise and not do a damn thing. But a part of me, because of how I'm wired, I'm kind of a revolutionary. I'm kind of supposed to be here to shake things up, change the world, transform the world. A big part of who I am is about death and rebirth every single moment. So that's how I'm wired. That's how I'm wired to be. It's partly how I'm wired to be in this physical dimension. But it's all the software program that I'm running on, that I'm operating on. And with that level of awareness, what does one do? What do you do when you have that level of awareness? And then you are unique awareness, and all I want to do is just simply rest in my state of paradise, you know? So what I'm learning is that I get to just have fun. I'm just going to have fun, and I'm going to play the game, and I'm going to engage the game incrementally, knowing the fact that I do have this disposition to be a revolutionary, to initiate a mass movement. I'm wired for that. But I know I'm running on a software program, the awareness that is me. And so with that knowledge, I feel empowered because I can choose every single moment. I don't have to be driven by this program that's running, this biological vehicle that's supporting this socially induced, this artificial evolutionary process that this human being, Karis, is going through. Because as an immortal being, as awareness, as unique awareness, what I am experiencing here on this physical dimension is so minute, so minuscule in comparison to who and what I am. Doesn't even make a dent on a map. This existence is so pathetic, okay? So, I leave you with that. I hope you enjoyed tuning in here. It's a glorious time to be alive. And the last thing I wanted to leave you with, which I was going to mention before, was I did an interview with Rob Brighton about 2 years ago, in 2010. He has a book called Imagining the 10th Dimension. We were talking about gravity, metaphysics, and he explained the whole idea around gravity and how gravity is love. So I'm going to post a link to a YouTube video, a very short one, where he talks about gravity being love from a scientific standpoint. So I thought that was cool, just to tie in our gravity stint from my last podcast. So anyway, thanks for tuning in. I love you all. I love all my new subscribers. Thanks for tuning in. If you want to join me on Facebook, because I know a lot of people are joining me there now, it's Karis Alexander, Kerrace, Alexander. And for those of you who actually were able to stick around to the very end here. Anyway, we'll talk to you later. We'll keep you tuned. Stay tuned. Bye-bye.